Okay, making a video. Yay! Different camera. It's one of these Aiptex, A-I-P-T-E-X. They're pretty inconsistent when it comes to cameras. I mean, some of them are real crap, and then some of them are pretty darn good for the price. So this is like a really high-end one, Action HD it's called. But it actually does 1040p or 1080p or whatever the hell it is. You know, the high definition, high definition. Anyway, this is the lower setting, the lowest, not the lowest, but this right, a second lowest setting. So anyway, 60 frames a second. I don't believe it's that fast. But anyway, yeah, guess who's back? Yay! Yeah, Boundless Eyes. Yeah, Mister. So see, this actually zooms. Well, it autofocuses, but has a zoom. It should have a macro too. Huh, it's not zooming too. It's not auto-focusing very well. Well, anyway, it has a 3x optical zoom, which is kind of a nice feature in a camera. Let's see if I can make that happen. Wonder how you do that. Oh, here it is. Telephoto. Let's see if I zoom. That zooms right in. Isn't that nice? Zoom right the hell back out again. See, so it catches up the focus. There it goes. So it's working. Anyway, yeah. So that's, you know, it's kind of nice. Anyway, I'll do a comment real quick on the last video. Yeah, so the other guy kind of sort of apologized, so that's okay. And so this new guy asks, basically, you know, yeah, okay, I concede the point. We're not doing much with our intelligence, but isn't there some hope that in the future we'll do something with it? Like, you know, no, there's no hope. You know, human beings are what we are. We're need machines, and we're just going to use our intelligence to gain our satisfaction, and in most cases in a horribly inefficient manner. Let me check the zoom here. No, it's all the way wide. And that's just not going to work. Hold the camera still. All right, now look at it. Okay, I'm looking at it now. Yeah. So, yeah, so there's nothing really to do but find new ways to jerk off, and that's really all it's about. It's about satisfying desire, and yeah, we'll come up ways to optimize that, and maybe we'll all be living in virtual realities that are much more interesting than our mundane, stupid lives now. But I don't think we're ever going to get there, because the human race is just not interested in being anything but dumb, fucking stupid animals. Dumb belief systems, dumb concepts of ethics, everything. Even the smart people are dumb as fucking goddamn sticks. So, yeah, no, we're not going to do anything with our intelligence but use it to figure out new ways to panic when everything goes to hell. Speaking of that, yeah, I'll do an economics video, so look for that. Yeah, I should do one. This Modern Mystic did a video. Well, he basically, he's getting to be such an arrogant and pompous kind of asshole. But anyway, he makes a video titled Strange, like it's been good times or something, and then he basically says, I have better things to do. And he doesn't make it clear that I think he was just talking about arguing with commenters, but he doesn't say that, and so he just, you know, he left it open, and so a lot of people thought he was, you know, not going to make videos anymore, and he kind of insulted them for drawing that conclusion, and I mean, that's just so, I mean, he's just gotten so ivory tower intellectual, like, oh, only us people who understand how it works kind of bullshit, and he's not getting it. Okay, the only thing, the economy runs, I'm going to get to this in the video, but it runs on work, okay? So all you got to do is change the work equation. We're not doing productive work. We're doing waste work all over the place. Middlemen all over the place. That's what rich capitalism leads to. It's a bunch of assholes just trying to figure out a scheme to steal money. So instead of doing things that they should be doing, which are building things and making things, no, we're just all caught up being selling out to weaselly routines, to spam the internet and to cheat people and to crook. And that's all the whole economy is built on. Ugh, marketing and crap. So if we did real work, we'd have to work like 2 hours a day for the same productivity we're getting out of the system now. We could have a 2-hour-a-day work week if we just took all the bullshit out of the system. Anyway, I'll get to that in the video. So anyway, on to Thunderbutt and such. Let's see, Thunderbutt. And so here we are, aardvarky thing, aardvark with glasses, too cool. Ooh, I'll zoom in here. Okay, there we go. Video loading, and such. Maybe we'll make it bigger.
And what I kept wondering
Go to
when
the
I was working
actual
on this
one.
documentary is...
Ooh, it's Ben Stein again. Cool.
And what I kept wondering when I was working on this documentary is, if they're so sure they're right, what are they afraid of? If they're so sure that their position is unassailable, let the other guy talk and then blow him out of the water and say, you fool, you didn't know this, this, and this.
Right.
But
Yeah, well, that's what we basically people are doing. So, yeah, your stupid movie got blown out of the water, and it's just a cheap whine, and it's just to, just to placate a bunch of crazy religious people. So, bravo. The very thing you argue we need a huge military-industrial complex to fight against is the very thing you sat there and justified in your stupid movie. You jerk.
Okie dokie, Stein. Let's play ball.
Darwin said nothing about how life originated. Darwin had no idea of how complicated the cell was. Darwin was never able to point to any clear evidence of any species that had originated by evolution.
Oh, well, that's pretty silly. I mean, obviously he made the whole leap from the Galapagos being populated by foreign invaders, basically, who, got there based on, on sticks or flew there. And that's why the island was populated by the animals it was populated by, because it hadn't been connected to a land bridge in such a long, long time. And so evolution took place on that island, and it was not a huge leap to say, well, if lizards who are, living one life over here, and all of a sudden they start becoming aquatic and can eat seaweed, I mean, that's a pretty dramatic change in their lifestyle. And if tortoises can get huge and get funny shells just being separated on islands, you just take it the next logical step and you say, well, if they got a few billion years to do this, almost anything is possible. So fuck you, Stein, asshole.
And there hasn't been much progress in Darwinism since then. Let the other guy talk and then blow him out of the water. Darwin said nothing about how life originated.
You fool! Evolution is not a theory about the origin of life. It explains the diversity of life.
Oh, well, I think that's kind of dumb and silly. I mean, if you don't take evolution, if you don't draw the logical conclusion, and keep, I mean, chemistry, it's evolving chemistry is what it is. Chemistry evolved into a reproducing cell, and then the reproducing cell took the chemistry to the next level. But it's just kind of silly to say that evolution doesn't point to an origin. It points directly at an origin. It points right the fuck at it. One cell that acquired the capacity to reproduce. All the arrows of evolution point to it. So this is nonsense to sit there and deny that and Darwin didn't speculate on that point because he knew how explosive it would be if he dared to say it.
Your statement is about as stupid as saying Newton was wrong because Newtonian mechanics doesn't explain light.
Darwin had no idea of how complicated the cell was.
You fool! Darwin had no more idea of the complexity of the cell than Newton had that matter was made up of atoms.
What is it? Why, you fool? It's true. Darwin didn't understand the dynamics of the cell. He didn't know what DNA was, and he still had enough evidence, compiled just from all his observations, to write a cogent theory explaining life. He didn't even need the details of the mechanism to expose how the mechanism functioned.
However, this in no way undermines the validity of either evolution or Newtonian mechanics.
Darwin was never able to point to any clear evidence of any species that had originated by evolution.
You fool! Have you never heard about Darwin's finches? You also seem to be living in a time warp where you only consider the scientific understanding.
I actually like the tortoises better. Birds are kind of creepy.
Of Darwin's time. Well, what happens when you apply that to Newton? The strongest evidence for evolution comes from DNA and the whole genome sequencing.
Oh, I don't think that's the strongest evidence. I really don't. I think the strongest evidence is in front of us every day, and the diversity of the human races, even the cabbages, strawberries, It's all around us. Our pets. Look at our dogs and our cats. They're nothing like any natural creature. And how did we make them change? That's right. We did deliberate selection instead of natural selection. We took advantage of their capacity to change. That's the strongest evidence of evolution.
Pretending that the last 150 years of scientific research never happened is not a compelling argument against evolution.
And there hasn't been much progress in Darwinism since then.
See, that's when you should have showed that chart, okay? Because that's the progress, okay? The genome thing is the huge progress, okay? Building on Mendel is the huge progress.
You fool and double damn fool. Firstly, there is no such thing as Darwinism, any more than there's such a thing as Newtonianism, Einsteinism, or Faradayism.
Well, I think it's kind of silly to run away from those kinds of terms. I mean, not that I've ever heard anybody say that kind of stuff, but, sorry about my shake. I'm getting palsy on top of everything else. Anyway, yeah, I mean, and Darwinism has acquired a meaning, okay? It has to do with these fanatic lunatics who, want to do the full human experiment of, eugenics.
There is only evolution, which was first established by Darwin, just like there is only relativity that was first established by Einstein. Secondly, not much has changed since Darwin. It's really difficult to restrain one's anger when a man so willfully parades around his proud ignorance as a badge of creationist honor.
Yeah, you've used this chart before. This is like all the chemistry that goes on in the biological process. The chart. So I guess it must be one of his favorites. I mean, it's a good chart, but it implies... doesn't imply, I mean, it's complexity for the sake of complexity, I think. He's just demonstrating, look how technical we are.
Not much has changed since Darwin, you fool. There was the discovery of DNA, arguably the most important discovery in the history of mankind, and yes, it fitted exactly with evolution. Then there was the discovery of DNA replicase, messenger RNA, and virtually every aspect of biochemistry. Phospholipid bilayers, the Krebs cycle, RNA transcriptase, photosynthesis.
You fool! You didn't really have to go through all this to point out that that's kind of a silly thing to say.
Iron pumps, sugar and lipid chemistries, most of them Nobel Prize-winning discoveries, and yes, every single aspect was 100% compatible with evolution. This is why no one takes Ben Stein seriously on academic matters, because he has an education more in line with the Dark Ages than the 21st century.
If they're so sure they're right, what are they afraid of? If they're so sure that their position is unassailable, let the other guy talk and then blow him out of the water and say, you fool, you didn't know this, this, and this.
Right.
But
that's why he's doing the you fool thing. Oh, I see. Shit. Anyway, proceed.
Yeah. Well, I think that just about covers it. Just because university lecturers and the such like do not consider it a prudent use of their time to spoon-feed people like Stein the knowledge which he has gone out of his way to ignore, does not mean that Stein's ignorance constitutes a devastating argument that can invalidate evolution, of which, for some unexplained reason, Stein thinks all of the smartest people in the world would not want to know about.
Like I said, well, look, Ben Stein's movie isn't going to change any minds. It's just reinforcement for the morons, okay? They say, oh, look, a smart person is as dumb as we are. And so, that's the danger of it. Isn't that they are going to say something that's actually tough to dispute. It's just the fact that, it's the credibility issue.
I present the following clip of Stein discussing his documentary on evolution to demonstrate that Stein's education on evolution doesn't even make the textbook level.
And that we didn't just originate as human beings from lightning striking a mud puddle.
it said maybe life was created by lightning striking a mud puddle.
Did it come from lightning striking a mud puddle?
Okay, how that happened by lightning striking a mud puddle is a very good question. Well, the first cause is...
Yeah, well, so what? Yeah, lightning striking a mud puddle, waves crashing on a beach, temperature variations in the ocean. Who knows where the first cell was created? What kind of bizarre chemistry took place? Perfect storm. Who cares? I mean, The fact that everything's pointing to it is the only fact that's relevant. The fact that we don't have a videotape and aren't likely to find a videotape doesn't change anything. But, I mean, Thunderfoot, no point in arguing the point. I mean, life probably did originate in a mud puddle that got struck by lightning. It's as good a guess as any.
It's not. It's lightning striking a mud puddle. See, this is what the evolutionists say. And by the way, they may be right. I'm not a scientist. They could be right.
Firstly, Stein's description of evolution here is about as accurate as saying that Christianity believes the universe began because an overweight three-legged aardvark called Ethel did a little happy dance. This particular brand of creationist logic is widespread by people like Stein, who are happy to believe that their ignorance of a scientific theory is proof why it must be wrong. I mean, by this reasoning, the fact that birds don't fall like apples proves that Newton was wrong about gravity.
Oh, I mean, really, you're taking this all the wrong way. This is just like the old line where somebody says, like when they had the Scopes trial or whatever it was, and all the religious nuts will sit there and try. We ain't monkeys. They're calling us a monkey. They're even saying we're not even a good American monkeys. They're saying we're kind of African monkeys. That kind of rhetoric, and it doesn't mean anything. It's the fucking truth, maybe. So what? We're related to monkeys, okay? Yes, some humans will find that an unacceptable, insufferable truth. But they'll also find it unacceptable if we take a microscopic view of their own inside their own mouth and show them the little bugs squirming around in there. Gotta hit the button. Technology.
In this sense, Stein's documentary is about as much academic credibility as a burger flipper making a documentary on multiple scattering and absorption effects encountered with samples of high incoherent neutron scattering densities in nuclear
No, this is just a brilliant way to argue here.
reactors.
We would just like to be able to ask the questions. Maybe we're wrong, maybe we're stupid, but we'd like to be able to ask the questions.
Okay, do you think, though, that...
Yeah, maybe you're a liar. Maybe that was the third choice you left out. Maybe we're lying and just playing a game because we're arrogant assholes and we think human beings are too stupid to figure out right and wrong on their own and they need some stupid motherfucking sandal-wearing, fucktarded, lazy-ass God to tell them what to do.
the people who believe in creationism are being persecuted in America?
There's no doubt about it. We have lots and lots of evidence of it in the movie.
Stein's statements demonstrate that he doesn't even have a high school understanding of evolution or the scientific method. Stein confuses free speech with science. The two are not the same thing. The terms are not interchangeable. In science...
look, what has to be acknowledged is, yes, that scientists as a collective are going to decide what science is, and they're going to have a pop culture sometimes, and so they're going to make mistakes. But in this case, they haven't made a mistake, okay? The majority of scientists think you really can't be a credible scientist if you don't really understand chemical and biological evolution. I mean, if you think it's a God that did it, why are you even trying to do anything at all anyway? If you really believe in a stupid God, you shouldn't be trying to research anything. You shouldn't try to do a goddamn thing, because all you're supposed to be doing is like the birds. Do the birds have science? No, they don't. So go get yourself some goddamn feathers, make yourself a nest, and sit in it, you motherfucking Christian idiots. Do what Jesus told you to do, okay? Strip yourselves naked and run through the woods saying, I love God, and He'll take care of you.
Merely saying something has little to no merit. You can say bananas prove God if you want, but it is no scientific merit. You can say that the earth was made by God in 6 days if you want, but it has no scientific merit. You can say that the sun is pulled across the sky by fiery horses if you want.
Well, look, it's kind of stupid to argue points that aren't in the movie, okay? They're not... Ben Stein doesn't argue that horses created the world. But whatever.
But it has no scientific merit. Stein doesn't realize that the fundamental metric of the scientific method is you must sustain what you say with physical evidence. And what you suggest must...
No, I mean, physical evidence is kind of bullshit. Evidence. That's all. Just evidence. Circumstantial, logical. There's all kinds of evidence. It doesn't have to be physical evidence. All it has to be is a damn good argument.
Be compatible with what is known from previous human experience. You can question any theory you want. Evolutionary theory, atomic theory, theory of relativity. But if you want it to have any academic credibility, you must provide physical evidence to sustain your claims.
Well, again, physical evidence. I mean, we don't have physical evidence of photons and all that kind of crap, and we never will. So we have theoretical. We have end results, and we can model and dissect. Okay, and that's all we need to draw some conclusions. Pretty solid conclusions. We didn't really need. Well,
Questioning the veracity of a theory without any physical evidence merely shows that you do not understand the scientific method. And yet, in a world with a finite research budget, and one where those who get funded are those who can compete on the world stage, demonstrating such a crass lack of knowledge of the scientific method will be the kiss of death for your academic career, just as...
Yeah, well, whatever. I mean, the credibility, I mean, it has to come in the form of a well, even documented, I don't know what the right word would be. But yeah, I mean, you're really being a little too explicit here.
Surely, as not understanding hygiene will be the kiss of death for a medical career. Creationists mistake the dismissal of a baseless statement as prejudice, when in fact it's an action that is required by the scientific method. In this sense, Stein's movie is not so much about prejudice in the scientific community as it is about his own ignorance of the scientific method.
Well, again, the scientific method is we have all kinds of things in science that are a little bit on the edge, okay? A lot of quantum mechanics, conclusions being drawn off very little evidence. And that's part of the problem. So you could argue that the Grand Canyon is evidence of something. Well, it depends on how you dissect it, what it's evidence of. And so this argument, I don't think, goes anywhere. And there's very bizarre circumstances that are very... they have a tendency on superficial inspection to indicate something, because somebody could say, well, like a Venom Fang X, they could say that's a 1 in 1 trillion possibility, but it's just a coincidence. So it doesn't matter what the odds are. The odds are irrelevant to the fact, and so this is where it gets a little dicey, because you can have evidence that points to the wrong answer. And it requires you to compile a logical argument explaining why the evidence is suspect.
Stein's documentary suggesting that those who make baseless claims without physical evidence are being discriminated against is actually a manipulative effort to conflate free speech with the scientific method. Stein predates on the fact that many do not have a clear understanding of the difference between free speech and the scientific method, simply as an intentional effort to spread disinformation about a theory he doesn't like.
Well, but this is kind of, you put your finger on something very scary, which is that there are very few places where more nonsense is spoken than in universities. I mean...
Well, we're using that clip again. Ooh, slimy.
Universities, which are supposed to be the residual fortress of knowledge and sense, are the residual fortress of nonsense.
It's really difficult to know what to say about that, other than a man who considers Harvard, Cambridge, Oxford, Princeton, Yale, Caltech, MIT, etc. as fortresses of nonsense is a man who is formally unplugged from reality. It's difficult to contrive what sort of distorted reality Stein lives in, where he...
Well, I mean, you're again, it depends on what courses they're teaching and how they're teaching, I guess is the point. And there's a lot of bullshit in philosophy classes and even science classes. A lot of the modern physics is pretty weak.
Thinks the foremost universities of the world are fortresses of nonsense, or indeed what a scientific documentary from such a mind would look like.
Yeah, well, whatever. This whole laughing at creationist things just seems like the wrong approach also, because it's really not a laughing matter to get it wrong, to not understand the context of our existence. And I guess I'm going to argue that there's lots of atheists who have all this science crap. They understand all this science stuff, they understand what evolution is, and yet they don't really appreciate it in the context of what its real function is, which is the selfish gene, which is to a mechanical process that doesn't have any singularity goal. Intelligence is just a tool. It's just another attribute like any other attribute. It tends to enable organisms to survive. It's not that they get to some higher plane and do some philosophical thought and that's all meaningful and all that kind of crap. That's all a pile of crap. So getting it wrong, you can get it wrong being a creationist, you can get it wrong being a scientist if you don't understand the context and the real meaning of what you've discovered a truth to be. You have to take it to all the way. You have to follow the facts all the way, everywhere they lead, not just the places you like them to go. So I would argue that some of you atheists are doing the same thing. You're finding cause to defend and glorify a system that's beyond defense and glorification. Beneath. Alright, that's enough. So anyway, okay. Oh, I forgot. This one's devoted to carbon. Holy shit, I forgot the important thing. Carbon, yeah. Carbon kicks ass. Yeah, I guess, so next to hydrogen, it's the most prevalent element in all chemistry. You know, so all, if you add up all the compounds known to mankind, next to hydrogen, carbon's in the most of them. So yeah, it's really good at combining with stuff, and it comes in like, depending on, you can make it morphs into different structures. So it combines with itself in sort of geometric ways that give it totally different properties. So yeah, carbon is either graphite or a diamond. Those two extremes. There's stuff in between, but those are the two extremes. And the way graphite works is it sticks to itself in a very horizontal way. Four atoms of carbon have a very strong bond to each other and won't bond to anything else, and they're just in a very flat little plane. And so the reason why graphite's a very good lubricant is those planes will just slide right over each other. And it also conducts electricity very well. And then diamond, it's in some sort of square shapes, cubey shape, and that's why it's transparent, is I guess the atoms are further apart. And it's very heat conductive, which I didn't know. It transfers heat very well. So they're actually working on technology to put in your heat sinks on your computers. So it will, diamond will pull the heat out of your processors. Which is sort of interesting. And then they got this new graphite they made that's in the shape of like a soccer ball. And I don't know if they really have a use for it yet. But they basically took the little planes of graphite and made them stick to each other in a instead of a planar way, they're in like an octagon-y thing. So anyway, yeah, but carbon's everywhere. Well, it's not everywhere. But yeah, there's a lot of it, and it's all caught up in those hydrocarbons, hydrogen and carbon, and a lot of, they're together a lot. And yeah, so biology has really stored a lot of it in the ground and stuff. It doesn't really naturally get stored that way. And then you got that carbon-14 stuff. I think that's like made in the atmosphere. It's made radioactive. I guess gamma rays put another neutron or whatever into the atom and make an isotope, and it has a and so they use that for the carbon dating thing, because we breathe in that crap, and whatever's made today will be new atmospheric, carbon-14. It won't be old carbon-14, and it'll stay in our body for a long time. So anyway, yeah, we don't metabolize carbon very, it just, wherever you put it, it kind of sticks. It kind of stays there, so that's why they use it in inks for tattoos and such, because your body really doesn't do anything with it. inert, something like that. Anyway, and then the steel thing and all the other chemistry it's in, it's all over the place. So that's enough. I think I forgot to mention like boron. I think boron's used in copper to make it stronger. I don't know if I mentioned that. Well, anyway, I don't remember. Anyway, I can't remember all this stuff. So, so this is an Action HD camera, and Iptec, whatever. I don't know if it has a number. I'll have to go look. Probably doesn't. Company's not very good at model numbering their cameras. So anyway, that's enough of a video, I think. Isn't it? I think so. Yeah, the LCD is dead on this camera, so I used a separate little TV. Pretty cool. Alright, well anyway, that's a whole side issue. So anyway, till next time and such. I mean, $10. It's a $200 camera. Anyway, till next time. But I hit this here one.